This guy who wrote the paper was correcting all my English vocabulary, was correcting all my English grammar. And I went to Pastor and I said, there I told you confirm, I don't have the gift of preaching. Don't ever get me to preach again. That was my first sermon in the Covenant EFC 20 years ago when I first came to the church. And Pastor needed a break that month, so he assigned me to preach that week of the month. I said, sure. Now, if I had not been sure that God has called me, I would not be standing up here today. And I'm sure you have many. I'm sure many of you are better preachers than me. Many of you are better leaders than me. Many of you are better caring shepherds than me. But understand, faithful is God who calls you. So the first thing I want to share in the light of 1 Samuel chapter 5 verse 24 is be clear and certain. God is the one who calls you into the ministry. Because it could be not 10 years, it could not be 20 years, it may not be 30 years like our sister here. She's been serving for 42 years. Wow. But once you are clear, God has called you ministry, you will never give up on God. You will never give up on the ministry. And the second thing Paul tells us in 1 Samuel chapter 5 verse 24, it's not just the God who calls you. He says, know the kind of God who calls you. He says, faithful is God who calls you. That's the second lesson that the Spirit of God impressed upon my heart when I first read this verse many years ago when I was called to the ministry. God is not just the God who calls you, but He who calls you is faithful. Now the Apostle Paul could have said many things about this God who calls us into the ministry. He could say loving is God who calls you. He could say merciful is God who calls you. He could say gracious is God who calls you. He could say many things about God. Powerful is God who calls you. But of all things, he chose the attribute of the faithfulness of God. Because those of us who have been pastors for a long time know the ministry is never about us. The ministry is about what? God. As Pastor Andy highlighted this morning before we went for lunch. And even though we go through a lot of challenges, roadblocks and hindrances and obstacles in the ministry, we hang on there, not just because God has called us, but secondly, the God who calls us is what? Faithful. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us, even when we have church members who leave us and forsake us. Even though when we have leaders and elders and deacons who leave us and forsake us. Do you have this kind of experience? Don't have, you all look like, wow, very blessed, man. We have leaders who left us, especially when we enter into a church building program. I always tell my friend, if as a pastor, you want members to leave your church, very good. Start a new building fund program, and people will leave the church because they don't want to part with their what? Money. And if you're a leader, I would encourage leaders, pastors, we lead by example. We ourselves have to be the first to seek the Lord, and whatever the Lord tells us to give, we give first. So that when we stand before God's people, we have the credential and the credibility to say, because the Lord has led me to give, I encourage you to continue to seek the Lord yourself. And whatever the Lord tells you how much to give in terms of peso or best US dollars, you give from. And a lot of members leave the church. And in times like this, when there's discouragement, when things don't happen, when your church is not growing and worse, it's declining, because your members went to the church next door. The aircon is colder. The music is louder. The speaker and the pastor looks more handsome, like Eric Kisson or Jackie Chan. So what happens? What do? We hang on not to just to the ministry where God calls us. We hang on to what? The faithfulness of God who calls us to the ministry. But there's a third thing Paul tells us as we answer God's call to the ministry. Firstly, He is the God who calls us. Secondly, the God who calls us is faithful. And thirdly, He says the God who is faithful who called us, He is what? He is powerful. He is able to bring everything to pass Think about this. If you have a God who is faithful, but He's powerless, not very useful to us, right? But you have a God who is powerful, but not faithful. He's not there when you need Him. He's also quite useless, right? But praise be to God. Paul says that God who calls us, He's not just faithful. He's always there with you, but He's also what? Powerful. Now listen to it. I didn't say powderful, because many of our wives are very powderful. Right? We as husbands, we say to our wife, I'm the leader. I make all the major decisions, and our wives make all the minor decisions, right? Then we say to the wife, yes, dear. So our dear can be very powerful, because while they make minor decisions, they are the one where the husband says, yes, dear, what do you think? But the great encouragement for us this afternoon is, as we answer and stick and stay faithful to the ministry, Paul says, take heart, God is powerful. He's able to bring everything to pass. He's able to provide for our needs. He's able to protect us from the attacks of the evil one, and from discouragement from our church members and from our elders and our deacons and demons in the board. How many of you got deacons or deaconess in your church? Raise your hand. Me, your church, you don't have deacons. Only elders. No elders too. Board, yeah. Meaning they are the boring people and the board. You like my joke? Sorry. Oh, so you don't have elders and deacons in your church? No more. In Jesus' name, you cast out all the demons, right? Okay, now I understand. Okay. Alright, okay. So I guess different churches will have different structure and governance, so I understand, okay? But go back to the scriptures, there's a place for what? Elders, right? And then also deacons, okay, diaconate and so on. So if you study the Bible, there's a place for something that's okay. So depending on your doctrinal position. But all I want to impress upon us, finally, third A, Paul says, understand that God who calls us is faithful and is what? Powerful. Some of you may be struggling in this area of your life, your family, or your marriages. And say, God, I answer the ministry, but not my children, no. Please don't let my son and daughter suffer. Because one of the challenges in our church today, of all the children in our church, is not the ordinary kids, are the pastor's kids, PK, or the MK, missionary kids. Or now they call it TCK, third culture kids, because they've been on mission field so long, right? They come back to Philippines, they don't feel Filipino. They don't feel Filipina enough. And so they feel very strange in coming back to the church. And so I trust God's word in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 24, for some of you who just came in, would encourage you. It's one of my many life verses I hang on to when I'm going through tough times. Alright? In the ministry. Okay, so what we'll do this afternoon is I just want to quickly share the 10 leadership lessons I learned along the way. Leadership resonance lessons I learned along the way. And then after that, we have a time of question and answers. Okay? Ken? Yeah. Hang on to me. And what time must I finish? 12 o'clock midnight? You all didn't know the door is locked already. What time must we finish? 4. Okay, good. Okay. So, be my timekeeper. Alright, now we'll go on to tonight minute. I want you to know that the journey, now some of you may not know that as a pastor, there are 3 things we all must grow and develop in. Right? How many of you want to grow? Raise your hand. Okay, I didn't say grow sideways, yeah? I say grow as a pastor. And there are 3 things if I've... so imagine a triangle, you draw a triangle in your workbook now. On the apex of the triangle, write the word leader. And the 2 points of the base, on one end write shepherd, and the other end write preacher or bleak teacher. So every pastor must do 3 things, I believe, in the understanding of God's word. Firstly, the pastor must be a what? Leader. Secondly, the pastor must learn to be a what? Shepherd. And finally, the pastor must learn to be a what? preacher oblique teacher. Now I explain why I put the two separately. Firstly, as a leader, if you are a pastor and you have to lead your church, you must grow and develop the competency to be able to chart the course, chart the direction and the vision of the church. I will briefly share later on afterwards in a plenary session. If you are a shepherd pastor, then the competency you must grow to develop in your life is the competency to care for people. Not care for cats and dogs, but care for what? People. Because the brass tacks of our ministry as pastors is not church buildings. It's not IT, Wi-Fi, it's not the computer, it's not technology. It's what? People. Lest we forget. That's why Jesus says to Peter, if you love me, feed my computer. If you love me, feed my sound system. If you love me, feed my chairs. If you love me, feed my what? Sheep. Which means people. Alright? Then the third area, if you are to be a preacher pastor, if you are to be a teacher pastor, the competency you and I must grow and develop to have is the competency to communicate. Communicate. Alright, so there are 3 C's there for you. The first is what? Chart as a leader, care as a shepherd, and the third C is what? Communicate as a preacher, teacher. Easy for you, remember? Very good. You got it? I'm sorry I don't have a flip chart or a whiteboard, but at least you know the triangle now? Okay, now ask yourself a very honest question right now. Which of these 3 areas are you strongest in? Which of the area is your natural strength? You know what? You are like fish in the water when you are doing this. Whether it's a leading role, a shepherding role, or a preaching, teaching role. Now, let me go back before you answer the question. I make a distinction between a pastor who is a preacher and a pastor who is a teacher. What's the distinction apart from answering phone call? Okay, if you are to be a preacher, a pastor, your role is primarily to inspire. Now, as a preacher, you only got 30 minutes or 40 minutes after all your study and preparation time. And your role is standing not on the stage, but standing on the pulpit is to inspire God's people with the word. Now, you notice the choice of word I use. I didn't say when you stand on the stage. Because stage is also, it's only meant for those who entertain. I say when you stand on the what? Pulpit. And I think as a church, we need to recover some of these words. Not just for words' sake, because if you say the right words, you remind yourself, when we as pastors stand not on the stage but on the pulpit, wow, it's a sacred trust. It's a very sacred responsibility I dare not take lightly. And I remind myself when I stand on the pulpit, I'm not here to entertain people, make people laugh. The louder they laugh, the more often they laugh, the better my sermon. Rubbish. So it's very important for us to get back to scriptures as what is our role as a pastor. And if you are tasked to preach God's word on Sunday, like tomorrow, 2 days time, your role is to inspire God's people so that they can perspire. I say, you mean God wanted me to give my time to Him? You mean God want me to give my treasure to Him? Of course. If God says to you, all the best, then do what the Lord tells you to do. Now then, if your role is a pastor, what? Teacher. Now the difference between a preacher and teacher is, teacher has got more time than a preacher. When you teach in a Sunday school class, when you teach in Christian education class or whatever platform, you generally have more than 30 minutes or 45 minutes, right? And what teacher tends to do is, teacher tends to give what? Information and instruction more than inspiration. Right? Because the teacher is all out to impress the hearers. Wow, I've done all my study. I exegete all the Greek and all the Hebrew words. Now let me tell you how good I am. And there are 3 possible meanings to this Greek word. And they'll mention this scholar, this commentator says so and so. But out of these 3 possible meanings, I believe, after studying the word, that this verse means the 3rd possible meaning. As a teacher, you can do that to impress people. I mean, as in share all that you have studied and researched. But as a preacher, you discover often you only use 20% of whatever you have studied and prepared during the week for the Sunday sermon. That's assuming you're prepared. That's assuming it's not on Saturday night you go to Google and you go internet and say, oh, type the text, and then you type the topic and look at the sermon and say, wow, so good. Then you do what? Cut and paste. And then you come up with your sermon on Sunday. Now, I want you to know that our members are very smart nowadays because now they got smartphone. When they hear you and I preach, they are checking on you. Which sermon do you copy and paste from? Which sermon do you cut and paste from? I won't tell you which church, which name, but there was a pastor in Singapore. The members were very unhappy with the pastor already. So they were trying to find a good reason to kick him out as a pastor. Guess what? They took one of his sermon and a team of them type up his sermon, transcribe the sermon, and then paste it on the internet and see where did this phrase or idea come from. And then one day they accused the pastor of what? Plagiarism. Copy somebody's sermon and then preach it as if it is your sermon. Now turn to your neighbor and say, relax, Pastor Tony is still not talking about you. Some of you look very worried. It may not happen here in the Philippines, it may, but it's not reported, you don't know. But this is not a small church, it's a very smart church. A church with a lot of professionals, even government leaders, and some of them did something like it. Now, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. The truth is, all of us copy each other, right? We'll be copying from commentaries, scholars like John Stock and J.I. Packer and John Piper and who knows, Ravi Zachariah, Peter Tanchi, Carlos, and so on. Huh? Wow, but the idea is what? Give credit to whom credit is due. Alright? But you don't spend the whole 30 minutes or 45 minutes sermons and say, this one is from who? By the time you finish, you're giving me your bibliography of your sermon, which I don't need. Right? But I think we just have to be very honest. Okay? So, that's why I made a distinction between a preacher and a teacher. But whoever you are, you must be able to what? Communicate. If you don't communicate, these people are not listening. That means they're all ready to fall asleep now. Okay, look at the triangle now. Ask yourself, which is your natural area of strength? That means without twinkling your eye, if somebody asks you to do this and you did it, you say, oh, no sweat, no problem, I'm not perspiring at all. I can do it. Okay, you got it? Now, how many of you here right now, look up, if you think your natural strength, meaning God's gift upon your life, is you are a preacher. You are a leader. Raise your hand. Okay? Look around you. Only one hand raised up. Okay? Good. So you all know when you have a problem, he's the man to go look to. Okay? Number two, how many of you think God's natural strength and gift upon your life is to be a shepherd? Raise your hand. Don't be shy, don't be shy. Put aside all your modest humility, okay? Shepherd, okay, good, put down. How many of you think God has called you to be a preacher or big teacher? Raise your hand. How many of the rest think God calls you to just do nothing and sleep? Because some of you never raise your hand. Hello? I tell you, I've done this survey. Most pastors in the world, in many countries that I go to when I have to do something like this, I found that most pastors by naturally are what? Gifted, called, strength to be what? Shepherd. That's why they are pastors. They shout, tika, tika, tika. They all follow, right? Those who never laugh means you were not here last time. Find out from those who laugh. Why are you laughing when they say tika, tika? So the moral lesson is never miss anything. Alright? So most pastors are by nature shepherd. They love to care and feed the sheep. They love to be there for members who are unwell when they're in the hospital or they're going through some crisis in their life, or funeral or death, birth, anything, a wedding, house blessing, anniversary, birthday of the child, birthday of the dog and cat, they will be there. You know? Right, they are the shepherds, they are the caring people. When you are absent, they know you didn't come. Even though your church could be very small or very big. Now, these are the true shepherds. If you are a real shepherd, you must also know their name. When I became a young pastor, I said I want to know everybody's name because every name tells me a story. And he also tells me to treat them not as somebody I can use, but treat them as someone I'm called to love. So I try to remember everybody's name. When I stand out on the stage, I not only know your name, I even know where you sit on Sunday. You know why? Because we're all creatures of habit. Right? And we always sit on the same segment of the chair, if not on the same chair. Don't believe on Sunday when you go back to church, you spot your people, you know they're always around that same area. Correct? That's why I know whether you come to church or not on Sunday. And when I see you not here, but somewhere there, because you come late, and your favorite chair is taken by somebody, so you got no choice, you're ushered to sit somewhere else. People often say, Pastor, what's the theology? Why must I know people's name? I say, because Jesus says, my sheep know, I know my sheep by name. Right? Tika, tika, tika. The tika come. I think if you are a true shepherd, this is some distinguishing. If you are a true shepherd, you will know your flock by name. Okay? So that's my personal challenge for those of you who are gifted as a shepherd. Okay, now, I found, what do you think is the greatest area of struggle most pastors face? They are very happy to be shepherd because if you are shepherd, people remember your birthday. They remember you came to visit me when I was in the hospital. They remember you came when I gave birth. They remember you came when my father died in a funeral. And then when it comes to Christmas, wow, Thanksgiving, New Year Day, your birthday, your anniversary, people remember you. And pastors like it. Come on, let's be honest, right? We are also human, right? We also need to be appreciated. That's why most pastors, if given a choice, the number one thing they want to do is to be a what? Shepherd. Of all the three, which area do you think most pastors struggle with? Hello? Leader. You know why? No pastor would like to be a leader because when you are leading the church and the ministry, you are not just leading towards God's destiny for your church. You are making what? Changes. You are rocking the boat. You are questioning the status quo. You are changing the norm. You are raising the norm to a new norm in your church. Question, do people like changes? No. Because the theme song of their life is, I shall not be moved. And therefore, I don't want to change. But leadership calls for people to get out of the comfort zone. Don't live life going through the motion. God has given you a destiny. Wow, this is a very good word. And people say, okay, God given me destiny. It's okay, I take my own sweet time. I still have got 100 years to live. Why do I rush? And then this way you tell them, no, we don't have air, all the time to waste. The time is now. Ooh, which means people have to change, right? And people don't like to be changed. That's why it's so hard to be a pastor. I salute you, I honor you as a pastor because it's one of the hardest jobs to be in. So that's why many pastors struggle in leading. And they don't like to lead because when you start leading, you lose all your friends. All your friends overnight become enemies. Or they run far, far away from you. Because you're challenging people, would you give your time to God? Would you consider serving as a small group leader or in this ministry, that ministry? Would you consider giving whatever? Not just financially, but your time. Would you grow and all that? That's why it's hard to be a pastor leader. So you heard the stories of what Pastor Andy shared, right? Making him do something he doesn't like to do. What do you think is Pastor Andy's strength? Hello? By the way, he's from America. He's from Seattle. And most Americans can what? talk. Because from young, in the kindergarten, they learn show and tell. Every child is given 3 minutes or 5 to talk, to do show and tell. You bring up something and say, this is a microphone. It looks like ice cream. It's so good to eat. And then you talk. Even you talk nonsense, never mind. Just talk. So that's why Americans are great talkers like Trump. And I'm talking nonsense, no? No, just kidding. It's not recorded, right? Soon I get a tweet from him. Now, so Pastor Andy is most comfortable in what? Preaching and teaching. Very good, right, this morning? How many of you were blessed? Wow, I was very blessed. And he's a very good young preacher in our church. But what is his area where he's not strong in? Leading. That's why I make every single young pastor go through the journey of what? Leading and organizing a camp. This is one of those things, because your leadership skill, your leadership gifting and competence will be tested when you lead and organize something so big like 1,000 over people church camp. So we don't inflict pain on people. We believe in growing and developing our people. Like in this case, our staff also. So it's done very intentionally and intensely as well. And so for them to learn what it means to lead. I want to challenge some of you, if your strength is a shepherd, and you know, because the second area that most pastors struggle is in preaching and teaching. And the area we struggle is because we don't set aside enough time to study God's word and to prepare. I want to encourage us as pastors, in your busyness of ministry, set aside time to study. Now, in an intentional disciple-making church, we encourage every pastor to grow in all the areas. You will always excel in the one area God gifted you, but in the other 2 areas where it's not your strength, at least grow to become competent. Now, Pastor Andy already said, my greatest comfort zone and strength among the 3 is what? It's what? Leadership, right? I enjoyed leading since I was young. I told you about my story yesterday night, right? Youth fellowship and so on. But what do you think, which area do you think I struggle the most of all the 3 areas? Hello? Not shepherding. I know people's name. How can it be shepherding? Preaching. My greatest weakness and struggle as a pastor is in preaching. When I have to preach on Sunday, I beg my wife and my 2 sons, please don't make me angry during this week. Because if they make me angry, how to stand before God and His people to preach? And when I have to preach on Sunday, I work very hard. Because I'm not a natural preacher like Pastor Andy. Because that's not my area of strength. It's my area of weakness. Of all the 3, preaching is my greatest weakness. I know you all don't believe, but it's after many years, right? Of developing and growing it. But those who are close to me, my pastoral team, even my leaders know, preaching is not I'm not the best preacher in my church. I have other pastors who are better preacher than me. And it's fine. Because we all have different what? Gifts. But because I'm a senior pastor, I have no choice. I have to preach. I have to preach more often than them because I'm the senior pastor. But I learned to surround myself with a preaching team. So in Covenant, I bring 11 people in my team into a preaching team. And because we got 3 locations like Destiny, you have North, Central, South, every Sunday, 3 of them will be assigned to preach from the same sermon text and same sermon topic. So assuming these are the 3 preaching this week, the 3 of them were to meet before the preaching team meets on Monday afternoon. And the 3 of them will have to come before the preaching team and present their outline, sermon outline to the whole team. And the team will evaluate and say, where do you get, Edwin, how do you get your first point from verse 2? Can you educate me? I can't see this point coming out from verse 2. And Edwin will explain himself to the preaching team. Sometimes the three can agree with one common outline, but maybe sometimes the three cannot. Maybe Edwin say, hey, my outline is the best. It came from heaven, you know. Maybe the other two, and maybe sometimes Edwin has a good intro, but the other preaching team member may have a very good body, and the third person may have a very good conclusion. So I believe in Proverbs says, iron sharpens iron. Not sharpen sharp lah. Iron sharpens iron. And so these three of them who are assigned to preach the coming Sunday shares the outline with the 11 of us. Now in the 11 of them, they're all not pastors. Some of them are pastors, some of them are ministry staff. Like Pastor Andy was last time only a ministry staff. Only when God breaks him, then I make him a pastor. Then I know you're ready to be a pastor. You know, you think, wow, pastor is a title, is a position, it's something you wear around. But only when you're broken and you can say to God, God, it's okay. Even if I'm not a pastor, I will still love you. And when you say yes, wow, I think you're ready to be a pastor. And so that's what I do. Every Monday afternoon, the preaching team, 11 of us meet. And I don't get only the pastor, I get even people who are not pastors, like ministry staff, like Andy last time, into the preaching team, because I recognize God has given them the gift of what? Preaching. And some of my pastors, they are not in the preaching team because they clearly don't have the gift of preaching. If they preach, they suffer, the wife suffer, the family suffer, and the whole church suffers. So why go through that suffering? I mean, already the wedding ring we wear is called suffering, right? Yeah, it's not just a wedding ring, it's called suffering. So I try not to inflict pain on the congregation. So for the pastors who are not gifted to preach, they are very gifted to shepherd, they're very gifted to maybe even as a leader, but they're not gifted in preaching. I don't put them in the preaching team. And they all say, wow, praise the Lord, hallelujah, wow, thank God, I'm not in the preaching team. So I may differ from some churches and bishops who say, no, if you're a pastor, you must preach. Now, if you're the only pastor in your church, you got no choice. But in a multi-staff team like what I have, we have the luxury of only putting those who are gifted to preach. And those who are not gifted to preach, please stay and do your shepherding and do your what? Leading well. Alright, I think the way we go, I think we're not going to this 10 leadership residence lesson. But I think this is more helpful, right? I think, okay, so let's open up for time of question. This one, all of you can... are the notes all provided for this one? Yes, right? Okay, then no need. No, okay. Sorry? Yeah, all the notes are given, so it's okay. But I thought it'd be good, more helpful for us to have a time of question and answer. Is that helpful? Yeah. Now, because any of this time, I would love all of us to walk out this place knowing, wow, God has gifted me in leading or shepherding or preaching. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Lord, you are so kind to me. Then look at the other two areas where you're not strong in, where you're not naturally gifted in, and say, how can I grow in those two areas? And the only way you can grow in leading is what? Do it lah. It's like Nike says, just do it. On the job training. So that's what I do. When I became senior pastor 7 years ago, I decided, even though I'm not a young pastor, I said, Lord, give me eldership over my life. I want to find pastors in Singapore City who are very natural and gifted and strong in these 3 areas: leading, shepherding, and also in preaching. And I says, can I spend like once in 2 months or once a quarter just to meet up with you, just to pick your brains and just draw from you, suck all the blood from you, like Dracula. Why? Because I wear an L plate here, and I'm still learning. So I want to learn. If somebody says, wow, the pastor is a very good book, a great article, or a great sermon, then I want to listen, I want to read, and then I want to learn. Why is it such a great sermon? Why is it such a great leadership vision? Why is it so touching and so on and so forth? So like this lanyard you wear. You wear, as pastors, we wear 2 lanyards. One in front, one behind. The first lanyard we wear in front is called L plate. It's like a pendant that says L shape, meaning I am a learner. So when you go back after tomorrow's IDMC clinic, when you take off your lanyard, remember there's always an invisible lanyard in front of you. It says what? I'm a what? Learner. I live to learn, I learn to live. The Chinese have this saying, we live to learn, we learn to live. And when you learn to live, you will always be growing and developing. My name is Tony, T-O-N-Y. It starts with what letter? T. Very good, you can spell. The rest cannot. When I was a young Sunday school boy, my Sunday school teacher came to me, says, Tony, you're always such an inspiration to me. Because when I come to the Sunday school class, you're already here. And you're not only here, you're already with your pen and paper. And you write down every word I say. And not only that, you remember everything I teach you every Sunday. And I mean it. Today, you come to my office, I still have all the Sunday school books of all my teachers, all the sermons I learned and hear when I was a young boy. Even today, when I sit in the service, even if I'm not preaching, if someone like Pastor Andy is preaching, I will take notes. I will take so good notes that if Pastor Andy collects after first service, I can take over and preach a second service. Because I'm listening attentively. I take good notes. I'm learning. I'm growing. I am what? Teachable. T stands for what? Teachable. I found the greatest challenge for pastors is we stop being teachable. I'm very inspired this afternoon to be here at the workshop because many of you should be standing up here to speak. And I tell you, I'm very happy to sit down here and listen to you. But to see you sit there, listen to me, I'm very inspired by your teachability. That you are teachable. Because there is hope for you and for me. And in our pastoral ministry, if we are teachable, we will always learn something. Yeah. Even if the preacher is very bad like me. It's a lousy preacher, it's a lousy sermon, you still learn something. You learn how not to preach like him. Right? Sometimes your members complain, oh Pastor, this speaker not good lah. I went to this conference, no good lah. I want my refund of my money. I hope it doesn't happen tomorrow. Then I say, what do you learn even though the speaker is not good? What will you do differently from the speaker who did not do what he's supposed to do? You still learn something. So if we are teachable, we always learn something, and when we learn something, we'll always be growing. Now what happens when we stop being teachable? We will stop learning. When we stop learning, what happens? We stop growing. And when we stop growing, what happens? We start dying. And if you spell my name Tony backwards, it says, why not being teachable? Spell my names backwards. T-O-N-Y, what do you get? Why not? Why not being teachable? You don't lose anything when you and I are teachable. So I challenge you as pastors, whenever you're not preaching, you're sitting down to listen to somebody, whoever the person is, could be someone younger than you, could be someone who's your peer, could be someone who's older, write good notes. So that you are paying attention and you are also learning. So the test for me is every time when I sit in a session, when I listen to a pastor preach, I want to take good notes so much so that if the pastor collapses, have heart attack, and nobody take over, I think I can go up and take over. Give yourself that challenge. Can? After today. Can? I think when that happens, we keep our hearts humble. We keep our hearts stretching and growing and learning and being teachable. And keep telling yourselves, why not? Why not being teachable? Okay, that's the first lanyard we wear in front. And the first L shape stands for what? I'm a learner. But as a pastor, we also wear a second lanyard at the back of our back. And it also starts with L. And the L word at the back stands for what? I am a leader. Now, even if you are not gifted and excelling in leadership, because that's not God's gift and strength to you, we have to grow and learn how to lead the church. Because you are a pastor, especially if you're the only pastor, especially if you're the senior pastor, you have no choice but to grow and learn about leadership. I want to give you some simple example how you can do that. For instance, read leadership books. If I ask you right now to write down on your blank piece of paper, name me 3 top leadership books you have read in your life. Can you write down 3 books? What's the title of the book? Who's the author? If you really want to grow in leadership, then ask yourself, who are some of the leaders you know here in Philippines, in Manila, or whichever part of Philippines you come from, that you will regard as a very good leader. Not your hero, not your zero, but someone you respect, I think, as a good Christian leader in your city or town. And say, hey, and go and spend some time with the person. Say, can I glean from you? Share with me your leadership journey in the past few years, when you are a pastor, when you're leading a school, when you're leading a seminary, when you're leading an organization or whatever, and you pick up and you pick up leadership lessons from them. All right. So if you find you are lacking in shepherding, well, you are a very good preacher, even a very good leader, but nobody knows you and you know nobody. Your EQ, your emotional quotient, your connection with people is not that strong. That means when there's a Christmas party, nobody invites you to go. Now that's one clue for you. You know, this coming Christmas, do you have a party to go to? If you as a pastor, nobody invites, it's very telling. Why no small group invite you? No? Why no cell group invite you to come? Why no family invites you to come? And you know your connection, in terms of your people connection, is not so strong. Then it's time for you to connect. And of course, you connect not with ulterior motives so that you can be invited to a Christmas party, or to get a Christmas present, or to be remembered on your birthday or anniversary. That's why serving the Lord with a pure motive is very important. I know it's not easy. At least here in Philippines, you have what Pastors Appreciation Month, right? That's in October, right? You follow the American, but in Singapore, we don't follow America. We don't have all these appreciations. So at least in Philippines, you have once a year, 1 month a year, where your members are reminded, hey, this is a pastor's agreement. Please do something to thank your pastor, appreciate. In Singapore, we don't have. We wait till we die, you know. So it's good to come to Philippines. Especially in the month of October, no, I'm just joking. Now I know when to come. Next time we organize IDMC Clinic in October. That's joking. But it's a very practical tool for you. I mean, as you begin a new year, 2019, ask yourself, which area do you want to grow in for next year? Start with one. If you are really a shepherd, thank God, praise God. Say, well, next year, I want to grow really in my preaching. I want to really grow in my leading. And say, okay, how do I do it? 2 ways. Start reading books on preaching, start reading books on leadership, or start reading books about shepherding. And then in your city, find someone, use my name in vain and says, Eric Kison asked me to come and see you. Jackie Chan is my friend, asked me to come and see you. Say, can I spend 1 hour with you? Okay, I buy you lunch. For your time, I buy you lunch. And just drink and suck all the blood out of the person and learn. What do you do as a leader? When God gives you a vision, what do you do with the vision? How do you take people in your board to go to where they want to go when God gives you a vision? That's what leadership is all about. Leadership, a leader is someone who takes a group of people to go where they want to go, but to go where the Lord wants them to go. That's leadership. That's my simple layman definition of leadership. It's influencing God's people to fulfill God's purpose in His time, in His way, and for God's glory. Alright, so 2 very simple things. So by the time I see you again, next time, you should be very good leaders, very good preachers, and very good shepherds. Alright, question. I want to end before Pastor Andy so that he knows I keep time. We got 25 minutes to go. Alright? So anyone has any question you want to ask? Don't be shy. I want to encourage those of you, if you are, how many of you here you are the only pastor in your team? That means the pastoral team in your church is I, me, myself. Raise your hand, please. Okay, we have one. The rest of you, you do have other, okay, raise your hand, Okay, that means we have four. For you, you are the only pastor in the team, right? Okay. Then I want to encourage you, build friendship and relationship with people, pastors that are around the same vicinity or proximity. Alright? Now, you may not be preaching from the same sermon text and same sermon topic, it's fine. But maybe once a month get together, those of you who are living in the same city and town, and say, hey, again use my name in vain, Pastor Tony asked us to get together. Maybe once a month, get together and says, can we share one book or one article that we have read that has been a blessing to you? Because if we don't do that, it's called accountability. Maybe some of you want to find some like-minded pastors, brothers or sisters in a ministry together. Maybe you feel more comfortable sharing your life in that way. That's fine. Do whatever you feel comfortable. Now, the African proverb has this saying, if you want to run fast, run alone. If you want to run far, run together. Let me say that again, because some of you are alone as a pastor. If you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. How many of you want to run far? Far means you want to live to 100 years old like me. Then we're going to what? Run together. So even though you may be the only pastor in the team, find people around your city or your province or your town that you can get together once a month. You'll hear me share a bit either today or tomorrow what I do with my own life so that I keep my heart and my mind sane in the midst of busyness and demands of ministry. I have a lot of close friends that I get together, fellow senior pastors in the city, and we get together once a month. And this is our 18 years. I started in the year 2000. And we're still going strong. And we share no holds barred. We share everything with each other. You know, we're all guys, and so we share our marriage struggle with our wife. You know, when I want to touch my wife says, don't touch me! You don't have that experience before. Eh? Meaning when you get to the bed, you want to touch your wife says, don't touch me! Then who do you talk to as a pastor? You call your elders and say, do you call your board members? You don't, right? But we talk about that. We share our struggle in our marriages. We share our struggles with about parenting journey, about what we face with our sons and daughters. We share our struggles in the work of the church and the ministry. So have real kindred-minded friends who will share and will be there for you. So I have friends both within the staff team and outside of my church, and they know there's nothing I will not do for you. There's nothing I will not do for them. But they also know, I also know there's nothing they will not do for me. So we both end up doing nothing. Alright, so I would encourage you as another application, as you go back to your own respective city and probably ask God, give me kindred-minded friends. If you are a brother, then I encourage you, find like-minded brothers. Even you are married, it's not because you want to hide things from your wife, but when the wives are not around, when the husband are around, it's easier sometimes for us to be more open, honest, and authentic, right? Because you want to share something about your wife or husband, your wife stare at you or give you that wink and that's it. And that's the end of your sharing, right? But you need an outlet. And again, the group you are in, you can also say this is a what place? Safe place. Whatever is shared in the group stays inside the group. Alright? So that you don't get a phone call from the board members. Hey, we heard you share about this, about... Alright? Okay, anyone has any dying question you could ask? If not, you can't sleep tonight. Yes?
We just bought a lot for Destiny Manila.
Yes.
And we would like to know valuable lessons from your experience in building your church building, and also how to build a team, how to select the people who will do the fundraising, construction and everything.
We have gone through at least about 4 fund building programs because of the pieces of land we bought. One of the lessons I learned about fund building, about raising funds, is that at the end of the day, it's not about a fun journey. At the end of the day, it's essentially a faith journey. Not a fun journey, F-U-N-D, but it's a faith journey. Because you are calling God's people to release their earthly possessions for heavenly purposes. You're calling them to invest in the kingdom of God. And some of them don't have the money. And it's true, some of them don't have the money. But you're calling them to trust God and say, in whatever God will do, you seek God and pray. God, I don't have the money now, but I want to trust you in the next 1 year, you will give me the money. I don't know how, I don't know when it will come, I don't know who will give me the money, but I'm going to trust you to give me the money. So the first principle I learned is that raising fund is never the journey. At the end of the day, God is calling us to raise the faith of every of God's people. Number 2, I learned in fundraising, in leading a church into a building program, in building a church building, people do not give to a need. People give to a vision. Second important lesson I learned. People do not give to a need. People give essentially to a vision. In other words, you got to be very clear what is the vision of this empty lot of land you bought. Why do you want to build a church building on this empty lot? Why do you need a Destiny church in this part of Manila when there is another church down the street? And you have to be absolutely clear as a pastor of the vision and the calling of God in building this building program. So first lesson is what? It's essentially not about raising fund, it's about raising faith. Secondly, people do not give to a need, people give to a vision. Number 3, I learned about fundraising. When we ask God's people to give, it is not transferring what we normally tithe to God in our general tithing or offering, and to transfer from the right hand to the left hand. A lot of Christians, whenever the church has a building fund program, they give less in their tithing and offering, and then they take their money and give it in the building fund. That's not true giving. So we tell our people, please be faithful to God in your regular 10% tithing and offering. Because the church still needs what? This regular tithing. If not, the church cannot operate. We cannot have the money to pay the pastors, the full-time staff, and the electricity bill and everything else. So how do we encourage our people to be faithful in their tithing? We tell them, whenever we have a building fund program, this offering, this giving must be up and above your regular 10% tithing. That means it's not taking out of 10%, give 5%, the other 5% you take it and give it to the building fund. This building fund must be on top of your regular 10%. If not, it's not sacrificial giving. When we were, I think it's important too, in any building fund journey, that the leaders ourselves must set the example. I'll give you a simple example. This year is my church 40th anniversary. And when we went up to the mountain, in my time seeking the Lord says, son, this year at our 40th anniversary service in September, I want you to launch a $40 million fund. Not peso, 40 million Singapore dollars, which is about US 35, 36, I don't know. It is for the future. It's for the next generation. And it's for one of our new center that is right now still looking for a piece of land. We don't have the land yet, we don't have a lot yet. But I got to get the church ready. I call it, let's be future ready. Because some church building fund could be need-based. For instance, maybe in your Destiny Church, there in that part of Manila, there's a need for a church building. There's no building. So people are looking for a home. There's a need for a home. And people will be willing to be sacrificial to give to the building fund. In our second satellite that we built, it was not driven by need. It was driven by a sense of vision. It was vision-driven rather than need-driven. And so people say, okay, I can see that we're going to the north, and even though I'm not going to the northern part of Singapore, I will give because God has given us a vision to go to the north and impact that community. Wow, people give. Then we had a third property. The third property was essentially an office building and a training center. Now that was the toughest because church members are not going to benefit from that unless you are full-time staff. Unless you're coming to the place for training, for equipping, for education, then you're going to enjoy the facilities. And that was our toughest journey. But when you are raising funds for a church building, members tend to be giving. You know why? They know when I give, I'm going to enjoy the facilities. I'm going to enjoy the aircon. I'm going to enjoy the light. I'm going to enjoy the music and sound system and so on. People will give. Right now, this is our fourth property. Our fourth fundraising is probably the largest amount we ever dare ask God. God give us 40 million. And so we challenge our people. And so I shared the journey. We basically said from September to next year, February, we're going to ask God's people to give us seed money. Seed money means you deposit. It's like in the Old Testament, whatever is your produce and your harvest, you give your first fruit to the Lord. And so at this anniversary service, I received a mango. It was from a family who planted a mango seed at the back of a garden. And after 4 years, they had their first mango fruit. And they literally cut off that fruit and came and gave to me. Pastor, we felt led to give you our first fruit. Literally. Mango, no? And it's a big mango. I took a picture and showed to the whole church the following Sunday. Then the old people in our church, you know what did they give as first fruit? They gave all their wedding jewelries and gold. They had no money because they are cash poor but jewelry rich. Because when they got married, they had many jewelries given by relatives and friends and all that, right? Dowry, that's right, dowry. So it's like Peter who says, silver and gold have I none, but this I give to the Lord. So I took pictures of all those gold, pendant and whatever that our old people give. And I'm so touched that they're willing to part away with their gold. It was a joy to see young children taking their piggy bank and bring it to God. Because actually children are very rich. Why? When it's their birthday, when it's Christmas, when some of you were Chinese, in the Chinese, they have Chinese New Year, right? They receive an ang pao, red packet, right? And where did the money go? I hope it's kept in their bank account. And those of you who are parents still young with their kids, right? Start a bank account for them. But the money that people give to them on their birthday, keep it in the money so that when they are old enough, say, these are all the money we save for you. When you're old enough, whether it's 18, whether it's 16, when you go college or university, or when they're 21, you decide for yourself. And we say, you take care of your own money. But we teach our children also to learn to give to God. So we involve everyone, from children to youth, and to adults, even to elderly. And of course, we run some fundraising project. I found in all the fundraising project, some of it are too much a waste of our time. Before I came to Covenant, I learned they were doing like Valentine's Day, right? They were selling flowers. And because they're all young people like Destiny Church many years ago, they had to ask one of the leaders open up their house, aircon 24 hours. They bought the flowers, roses one day before. And in order to keep the roses alive, the whole aircon has been on throughout. Then they have to drive, deliver the flowers, but the money, the returns you get is very marginal. You only earn so much. Some even buy parts of a watch and try to assemble them. Some of them try to sell stress ball. Some make Christmas cookies and try to sell, but the returns are very marginal. I found there are two projects that give you very big returns. Take it down. It's very helpful. Trust me. The first is golf charity. Golf? I know most pastors don't play golf. I don't play golf. But there's some pastors who play golf. Huh? But if you have friends who play golf, because in Philippines, golf is very cheap, right? I learned. You find people who love to play golf, but play for a good cause. They pay for the flight, each flight in a golf game, and then you just find 5 people or 6 people play. Then all you need is just have a lunch or dinner for them, have some prizes, but the money you get from golf is quite good, from a golf charity. Easily you can get 150,000 for a golf charity. The second is a fundraising dinner. You book a nice ballroom like Shangri-La, whatever hotel that is in Manila. And then say, assuming one table costs, say, how much does one table dinner cost? Here in peso? 10,000? 1 million? No? One table dinner? 35? 35,000. Okay, so assuming one table in a hotel costs 35,000, but you don't sell it at 35,000. Say you sell it at 1 million peso. And you get each cell group. So if the cell group has got 10 people or 15, get each cell group to buy 2 tables. 2 million. You straight away earn how much? I mean, you straight away collect how much? You each 1 million per table, you minus 35,000. You re-earn 65. You re-collected 65,000 peso from each sale of a table. Then you tell the cell members and your church members, I don't want you to come and sit there and eat. The table, the 2 tables that your cell group buy is not for you. Because you already have given. I don't want you to sit there, eat dinner and give some more. I want you to think of other Christian friends who have a lot of money but they don't know what to do with their money. Like those from CCF, you know, they're all business people, they don't know what to do with their money. No, I'm serious. They have, not just CCF, but many other churches. Huh? But I'm sure you know of Christian neighbors. They are very blessed by God. And thankfully their church is not into any building program. Now, this is the time to say, so and so, would you come? We'd like to invite you for a dinner. But it's a fundraising dinner. Just come. And at a dinner, so at the fundraising dinner, firstly, you already raise money from the sale of the table. Right? That's the first. Secondly, at the fundraising dinner, I encourage you to have silent auction. Outside the ballroom dinner, at the lobby, you put up items that are very precious and valuable. So like when we were going through our fundraising, the committee approached me, Pastor Tony, would you sell away your sword, auction your sword? I told you I got my sword from the president. It's called a sword of honor, given only to 1 officer per year, the top officer. My name is engraved there, the date is there. I said, sure, take my sword, take my barbecue steward. Pastor Edmund was asked to auction his Bible. His very first Bible that he wrote all his sermon notes by the side, he colored and so on. And the Bible alone raised $175,000. My sword, $125,000.
Wow.
One of my pastors was from Malaysia and he was a weightlifter. And when the Olympic game was coming, he was one of the people torchbearer. And so he kept the torch. Hey, how many of us got the torch? So they know he had asked, Pastor Lee, would you give up your sword? Yeah, sure. And people, my worship pastor, he auctioned his handmade guitar that was given to him by a friend. The guitar is handmade, not machine-made, handmade. And he kept it for many years. And he gave out his guitar for auction. And silent auction means you look at an item and say, oh, this item is very nice. I want to bid for 20,000. And you write down 20,000, you write down your name, you put your name inside the box. That's why it's called silent auction. It's not like those Chinese, oh, first prize, going once, going twice. No, we don't have all that. That's why it's called what? Silent auction. So maybe you look at a guitar and say, wow, or one of my pastors is a very good artist, so he auctioned his painting. And people look at it, oh, very nice, I think this painting, I'll bid for 10,000 peso. Maybe another person, 50, but you don't know I bid 10,000, right? Maybe he see 15, you just write down, so silent. After the process of the dinner, they will flash. Now, who is the highest, and so on. So at the auction dinner, at the fundraising dinner, one of the items was silent auction. So case in point, the Bible. There were about 10 people who bid Pastor Evan's Bible. 175,000, 150, 120, and so on. And we invited the top person to come, and the person didn't want to come. Just said, no. The person chose to remain anonymous. And said, no. Even though I'm the top bidder, I will pay 175,000, but please give the Bible back to Pastor Evan. Ask him to prepare some more sermons. Very good. But the spirit of giving was so good that night. And mind you, the people who came are not from our church. They are Christians from the city. And just Pastor Evan's Bible, the rest who are second, third, fourth, who are not successful with the bidding, even though they didn't get the Bible and they're not a top bidder, they also gave whatever they bidded. But that's the spirit of giving you want to see. Right? So even for my sword, 125,000 was given. And the person was anonymous and told the committee, please give back Pastor Tony his sword. I don't need his sword. I have my own barbecue skewer. But my pastor, for instance, the torch, Olympic torch, and the guitar would never return to them. Now that was the second source we raised funds, just from the dinner. The first was the sale of table, second was the silent auction. Then at the dinner itself, we will take the time to we'll take the time to share the vision of this church building fund. Why we have this dinner. And share, we believe God has led Destiny Church to this part of Philippines because there is a people, a community to reach. And this is our plan. This is how much the building costs. And right now on the table where you sit in the center, there is a special envelope just for you. It has your name on it. And it's just waiting for you to write down your credit card number. Would you prayerfully bring this or respond to God? And then you collect. Now, just from the fundraising dinner, in our past experience, we raised $1.5 million. Sing. Now, that's a lot of money just for one evening from 7 o'clock to 10:30 or 10 o'clock. So I'm just giving you ideas. When I was in Toronto many years ago for my sabbatical and my study, a church discovered who I was and where I came from and said, Pastor Tony, we are a Baptist church and we just bought another Baptist church building because our church was growing. But we have been stuck in our building fund. We are still short of $150,000. Can you preach? Can you come to our church this Sunday and preach a $150,000 sermon? And my response to my friend is, sure, no problem. I only have one condition. Whatever I raise after 150,000 goes to my Swiss bank account number. And I simply share from the Word of God. Give stories and examples because stories inspires what? Faith. So I share stories of how God led children, youth, young couples. And one story I shared was a couple, and the strategy we use, we tell people is, seek the Lord. whatever the Lord tells you. So that's another principle of fundraising. You tell people, you don't push people to give. You tell people, you go and pray and seek the Lord yourself. And whatever the Lord tells you to do, do it. The next principle I learned about fundraising is give your best. God will do the rest. Take it down if you are learning, because it's very precious. Give your best. God will do the rest. So we tell people, you go and seek the Lord and ask God, God, what is my best I can give to you? And one of the story I always tell was a young couple getting married next year. And when they both came before the Lord and prayed and seek the Lord in terms of what is the best He can give, God says, your best for me is your wedding savings. No way! We want to get married next year. God, why you want us to give our wedding savings? Now remember, give your best, and God will do the rest. And I was very proud as their pastor, because one day I received this letter from this couple. I said, Pastor, we prayed, we sought the Lord, and we really want to give our best to the Lord. The Lord told us our best was our wedding savings, and here is our gift to God. And it was a check of a few $1,000s for their wedding savings next year. I tell you, I'm very proud to be their pastor. I'm so glad to have members like that. The following year, I'm very glad to report to you the couple did get married. I was a solemnizer. And there was no lack in the wedding. There was a reception. The wedding was beautiful. There was no lack. The couple could even go for honeymoon. Because God is what? Faithful. We can never outgive God. I had church members who sold their beautiful car. Even brand new car. I said, why do I need a brand new car? It's always in a car park for so many hours. Right? I only drive the car for a few hours a day. And their best before God was what? Their car. And you know, in Singapore, our cars are very expensive. That's how we control traffic. So I know how to solve Manila traffic jam. Increase all the price of car. No, I'm just kidding. Have a public transport or whatever. Okay, so anyway, their best was what? Their car. So they sold their brand new car and then settled for a second-hand car. And the profit or the money they get in between, they give it to the Lord. Because for many Singaporeans, I think it's true for Filipinos, we are often what? Cash poor, asset rich. We are rich in our house, rich in our car, rich in all our insurance policy, right? Is that all you have? No? Some more? Land. Okay, land, okay. Or land is you just give. Alright, so what that's what we tell. So we know we cannot draw the money from people. They have no cash to give. But the challenge is to ask them to consider their assets. I have a family because they invest a lot in insurance policy for their children's education in the future. And God said, if I've given you the baby to you now, when a baby is old, 16, 18, you say, can't you trust me, God says, to provide for your children, even your baby that you're now nursing, when he's old enough for his university education. And the parents gave up and broke their insurance policy, and whatever money they could draw, that money went to where? Building fund. We have church members who says, I think our best is our house. And they downsized their house. Still have a roof above their head, but why do I need such a big house? I can still have the same number of rooms, but maybe smaller house, smaller car, and whatever profit there is, I give it to the Lord. I'm just giving you ideas, stories. These are all true stories. There was a sister who came from China. She was vacationing in Singapore, and that Sunday morning she came to our worship service, and she heard some of these stories. And she was very inspired because one of her good friends was working in Singapore and was worshiping in our church. And so she went back, she felt convicted. She went back to her own province in China, and it was a Christian village, and said there is a church in Singapore who is building a church building God's house. would we give as the Lord leads, using the same lingo we use, to this church in Singapore? And the poor villagers in China gave and they collected an offering for us. Wow, I was very moved. I say if God's people who are not living here in Singapore, they are in China and some Ulu place, some remote place in province, and they heard what God is doing here, and they are willing to sacrifice and give to God's building here, that we will benefit. What more the rest of us who are going to be here? I tell you, the rest of us got no reason why not to give. Alright? So I got good news for you. After I preached a sermon in Toronto, the following Sunday I left home for Singapore. And then I received an email from my friend and said, Tony, thank you so much for preaching a 150,000 sermon. Guess what? We received more than that. So I'm available. Same condition. Anything that's above goes to my Swiss bank account. Okay, so this is just some lessons I've learned about fundraising. I know it's not easy to ask money from people. Because I often say to God, God, I'm a pastor. I'm not a fundraiser. And it's not fun to raise funds. Right? But I learned to develop thick skin. You know, as pastors, we need to have a tender heart, but thick skin. And I have no problem now asking for money, because I'm not asking for my own family. I'm not asking for my children. I'm not even asking for myself. I'm asking for who? God. Provided all our governance and compliance are proper and above the law. There's no under the table stuff. Okay, I hope all this, I'm assuming everything is above. Oh, you're gonna stop. Okay, thank you. I think that's a great time to end. If not, I'll be collecting. If not, I'll be collecting money soon. Come, let's stand together. Let's stand together. Let's stand together. I'm going to ask you right now, as we stand before the Lord, if there's one thing the Lord has impressed upon your heart, as we leave this workshop and say, God, thank you. You inspired me. You ignite new faith, new fire, new passion in my heart as a pastor. The need for me to learn and grow in a particular area. I want you right now, as we lift up our voices together in prayer, say, God, thank you for speaking to my heart. Lord, I want to learn. I want to keep growing in this area of my life, either as a leader, as a shepherd, or as a preacher, teacher. God, help me. So I want you right now, lift up your voices to God right now. Say, God, one of my favorite songs I often sing to myself and to the Lord is that chorus of that song we sang just before we went for lunch. In Christ alone, I place my trust and find my glory not in the signs of my ministry, not in what people say to me, not in the applause of men, but in the power of the cross. I'd like us to sing that as our prayer to God, and then we close our time together. In Christ alone, I place my trust and find my glory in the power of the cross. In every victory, in every victory, let it be said of me, my source of strength, my source of hope is Christ alone. In every victory, in every victory, let it be said of me, my source of strength, my source of hope is Christ alone. You are my source of strength, my source of strength, my source of hope is Christ alone. Father, lead us back again and again, always to the cross of Calvary, so that we find our true identity in you. We find our ultimate security in Christ. And above all, Lord, by your grace, you keep us growing in our maturity in you. And in your power and in your grace, that you will take our one life, multiply it many times, that the gospel might advance, the church of Jesus Christ might be built up and edified. And Father, there will be a wonderful legacy of faith and faithfulness we can leave behind for the next generation that will come after us. Lord, thank you for all these wonderful servants that you have called to yourself. Faithful is God who calls you, and He shall bring it to pass. We pray all this in Jesus' name.